I want to talk about Trent, and I think it's a worthy conversation because ultimately I've seen a lot of other people. Just before we came on here, I noticed a clip from the overlap where Roy Keane was throwing his 2 cents in, saying, and it was all very much a veiled dig at Liverpool fans and how we perceive ourselves, which I thought was a little bit over the top. Very keen to, about as he said, oh, Liverpool fans think of themselves as blah, 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 and yet they booed Trent. And I did think it was ironic, a man who, maliciously set out to injure an opponent after stewing on some words for 3 years, talking about Liverpool fans' emotional reaction stuff. But regardless, Trent Alexander-Arnold, it was an interesting few days for him. Obviously started with laying a tribute to Diogo and Andre at Anfield, which I thought, let's just do that in isolation first and foremost, regardless of all the other things that go around it and that Trent will bring with him to the football ground. Is one of his best mates, and actually it was a poignant moment and a poignant reminder of the humanity behind the sort of general football around it. Yeah. I mean, he was obviously there with Emilio Butragueno, wasn't he? And another one of his teammates, I think it was Dean Huijsen. Yeah. So, I mean, it was obviously a lovely tribute to do, and something which I think every European team is going to do this season when they come to Anfield. And of course, it was most poignant for Trent, being that he was good mates with Diogo. And I think it would be the first time he's had a chance to visit the site where they've sort of laid out as a bit of a memorial for Diogo. Places the PlayStation pad down as well, doesn't he, as a nod to Diogo's love of gaming, which was a nice little touch. And the fact, of course, they quite well, I was going to say famously, maybe for a particular generation, maybe a generation you're slightly younger than us, to be fair, Paul. They met online, they play FIFA against each other prior to
final,
Jota.
Weren't they, when Jota was at Wolves? I think Jota beat him, as he tended to beat everyone on FIFA, to be fair. But yeah, it was a nice touch, handwritten note from Trent as well, and I think they basically put all that stuff down, the floral tributes and the gaming pad and stuff, just after the press conference. So I was at Anfield, so as I was leaving, I thought I'll go over and have a little nose at it, at the site of where it was, and I think sadly because of the weather, the handwritten note had blown away somewhere, and the flowers were sort of tilted on the side, so tried to pick them up, but the weather just wasn't having any of it. But it was a nice touch. Obviously really, sad, poignant moment for Trent in particular, given how close he was with Diogo and stuff. But yeah, I think it's going to be something we're going to see certainly for the rest of this season, the opposing teams coming to Anfield, European teams, and just paying tribute to a player who sadly lost his life, because at the end of the day, that could have happened to any player at any club. So it was a nice touch. Yeah, I want to bring it up because it would be easy to gloss over that, because Trent becomes the sort of pantomime villain of the piece in the day that follows. His first return to Anfield on the pitch since choosing to leave the football club technically on a free transfer, but also, not on a free transfer for way below market value, shall we say. Yeah. A move that had obviously been long in the planning, judging by how fluent he is at Spanish, which is, unless he was just great at Spanish GCSE, which, some of us had a better time with Spanish GCSE than others. But you could see from early doors, his first appearances on the pitch to warm up, greeted with boos when his name was read out by Peter McDowell. That was met with a chorus of boos, but it was actually paled into insignificance compared to the ones that he got when he actually entered the field of play late on in the second half. Yeah, when he was warming up, I was watching him as Peter McDowell read out his name, and obviously the boos come, and then there's just a little bit of a wry smile with whoever he was training with, probably Bellingham, and it felt like he knew that this was part of the dance, and he knew it was coming, and he didn't seem, overly hurt by it or offended. Maybe deep down he might have been a little bit hurt that, this is what it's come to, but he will have known that the reception was largely going to be like that. And I think it was very different to the one against Arsenal in May, because at the time he was still a Liverpool player. That was very much a divisive incident, which people debated at length. A lot of people agreed with it, a lot of people disagreed with it, but I think this was a little bit more almost in unison that he's playing for Real Madrid now, so it is fair game to give him pelters, and that's what happened. And someone made a point, Mark Jones, on our Blood Red podcast yesterday, which I hadn't considered, but it was a really good point. Was it Alonso bringing him on, obviously because he's going to bring on a quality player and they need a goal, but was he bringing him on maybe to upset the apple cart on the stands and try and turn the atmosphere into one that Real Madrid could have profited from, a bit of chaos in the way that Arsenal did, back in May when Liverpool were 2-0 up, and then because of the booze, because of the unsettled nature of the terraces, it becomes 2-2 very quickly.
If that was the case, I would like to say he got that wildly wrong.
It was worth the roll of the dice, wasn't it? But it didn't work.
It was interesting so much because as far as that theory goes, I hadn't even really considered that, but it is my major problem with it, and the division that Trent has caused is a problem, and I found it quite upsetting to be at Anfield at the end of the season, toward the end of the season when it was happening.
Yeah.
Not because I'm strongly opinionated about whether people should or should not boo him, but actually when you've got division in the stands, and there are examples again of this during the game that which does prove the point to some extent of people standing up to clap him in sort of opposition to the booing, but then people who've booed then shouting at people who are standing up to clap. So it what it says to me is that it is a complex situation. There's a lot of complex emotions going around it. That is almost the worst element of it. There is no uniform feeling towards Trent, or if there is, the lack of harmony stems from how we feel we should conduct ourselves, and that's a bit of a problem because there aren't many Liverpool players who've achieved what he's done, and certainly homegrown lads who was no one I can think of who's been in the situation to get that kind of treatment. Luis Suarez had to celebrate in front of Liverpool fans at the new camp, having scored against us, to get the "fuck off Suarez" chance when he got to Anfield. So it is very, very unprecedented.
It is, yeah. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's a really, really thorny issue. On the one hand, he has left the club essentially on a free transfer. Had it not been for the Club World Cup and Real Madrid's desperation to get him in, Liverpool wouldn't have got a fee for him, and they get a fee, like you say, way below his market value. And a lot of supporters feel that he's just been biding his time, keeping his head down and just waiting to leave on a free and hope that it'll all blow over. So there is that element to it, and I can understand anyone who thought it was fair game to boo him on Tuesday night, and people who maybe don't feel as fondly now about him as they maybe did sort of 12 months ago or whatever. But on the other side, I'm one of those, and I love to see local people doing well in any walk of life. And a lad who's from West Derby, 27 years of age, playing for England, just gone to one of the biggest clubs in the world. There's a bit of pride in that as well, civic pride. But the fact that he's done that and sort of stepped over Liverpool on the way to do it is one where that's a difficult circle to square. So it's a very divisive issue, even internally for myself. I had interviewed Trent a number of times and always got on with him quite well, and all that sort of stuff. So it's a difficult one to sort of weigh up, and you can have that debate forever, really. But I think now it's done. He's come back. That itch has been scratched, and let's move on. Conor Bradley was fantastic, and let's start looking inward and celebrating him a bit more if he can, put together a run in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I think the civic pride stuff is interesting. It's hard to balance that thing of wanting to see Scousers do well, but then the reality of that is if them doing well actively stops the football team doing, and that was if he goes on to do less or isn't, you don't have to see him again, then it's out of sight, out of mind. But to have that reminder come so quickly that Real Madrid, there's only 6 teams have won the Champions League in the last 10 years. So when I say he's gone to a European rival, Liverpool are one of the teams in that last 10 years. Real Madrid are the reason why it's only 6, because they've won so many. There are only a handful of teams that are going to stand between Liverpool and a 7th European Cup, and he now plays for one of them. So it is very difficult to kind of, it's hard to wish someone well when their now life goal is potentially to stop Liverpool from having European success. I would guess.
100%. And that is why I don't get anyone sort of external pundits who aren't connected to Liverpool thinking it's okay because he hasn't gone to Manchester City or Chelsea or whoever, because Liverpool plays Real Madrid about 10 times in the last 7-8 years. So they're as much as a rival as anyone else, really. They are certainly outside of the Premier League the number one European rivals.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. So yeah, it was definitely interesting to see what happened. Obviously, the side story to this in between is the vandalisation of his mural, which was quickly cleaned up. Which again, it kind of set the tone. You could see that there was a pathway to what was going to happen. The hope is, as you say, this is kind of done now. I'm sure because we keep playing Real Madrid, I'm sure we'll come up against them again during his tenure there. You know, you would
this
guess.
Season, couldn't it?
Exactly. It could well be, and hopefully it will. I think it'll fade. I don't think it would fade this season. I think if we met him again further down the line, I think that would actually only maybe be a little bit bigger. It might be a bit more pantomime, a bit more. I think people stopped feeling any deep sense of antipathy towards Raheem Sterling, for example, but actually
we'll carry that on.
Yeah, because to the point, I think it helps to have someone to target your ire towards in a football stadium. So we'll have to see on that one. But yeah, anyway, that was what it was, and I'm sure we'll have to deal with that again at some point in the not too distant future.
That was a clip from Journo Insight. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.